engage with the teacher within the classroom. Because I think a problem with a lot of teachers, and if I was one, which I would face, is that a lot of students are just not interested. A lot of students just don't seem to care. And the one way we can get students to care is by getting students to engage within themselves. Like if we have a panel discussion like this within a classroom, with a student, say, as a moderator, about, say, electricity and its applications, and how we can make sure that our country can get more access. Just ideas for students to come out and put what they think forward. I think we can get a lot of students to engage with the content a lot more, because now it actually applies to their ideas and what they can consider. Yeah, an engaging mechanism.
Okay, I think it's pretty poetic that the topic of this panel discussion is the voice of this issue, because I want to talk about three possible changes to make. The first is, as Didi rightly noted, just involvement of students in general more. That's to say, a shift fundamentally to what is often called student-centric, learning, which is the idea that students get to contribute massively to the classroom, in the sense that they are the center of discussion and they are the ones coordinating the discussion. And the role of the teacher in such a democratized learning process would be the role of a leader, the role of a moderator, the role of someone who is guiding the students as they engage in this discussion. But on the second level, I think an extension of the problem which Diti identifies in terms of disinterested students is students who often feel excluded from these discussions because of the fact that often within peer relationships they feel inferior, often because they face...
Hold that for the last question. So I'm going to revisit how to make it inclusive and involve students who are kind of excluded or marginalized.
Okay, and the third thing is just to create a general culture of learning, right? Which is to say, when you're setting homework, perhaps ask them to look beyond the curriculum. Ask them to, for instance, do a research task. Make the teachers be more like coaches than teachers in that regard. And generally get them to get interested in the subject on their own. And I think that level of autonomy will substantially improve the performance.
Qualify that statement. How can a teacher be a coach inside the classroom? It's easy to say that. Can you qualify it? If you were a teacher, how would you coach the class and not teach on such project-based assignments?
So what I would do is essentially, if I want to teach students something, give them a general theme, ask them to search about it, ask them to go to the library and read about it when they have free time, ask them to take notes, ask them to learn something, and then contribute to the class what they have learned, and then perhaps correct them if they've got something wrong, and then perhaps allow them to contribute to the educational atmosphere of the school much more, such that the home, the playground, everything becomes an extension of the classroom, and everything becomes an extension of the same educational atmosphere for the students.
Okay.
If I can add something to that, I think that also helps us think critically, because something that we need to do within the classroom is not only just think about the subject, but think beyond, so that we can apply it once we graduate from school. Because school is supposed to be a place where we learn how to live life, and where we learn to lead not just the country, but even the world forward. So I think that will definitely help us in thinking critically as well.
Right. So adding to what they just said about engaging kids and about how teachers act more like coaches, I feel one way in which I go about it is essentially teach children how to learn as opposed to what to learn. So as I try to inculcate that culture of research and that culture of asking why, so what applies to me, such that at the end of the day you don't, for instance, have a bunch of kids going and saying, oh, I don't want to learn Hindi because that won't apply to me. I mean, you learn something specifically because you like to learn, and at the end of the day that's what drives you, I think. And the reason why I feel that this is extremely important is because apart from the idea of getting better results, you also get a better quality of results in that sense. You have kids who are able to question more. You have kids who are able to think better, effectively. And when you're a better thinker, you ultimately, that translates into the actions that you have on the world around you.
Firstly, before I start, good evening to all the respected teachers in this room. I'm not sure I'm qualified to give you advice on how to do your job, but this is my opinion. If I were a teacher, I would make sure...
I've given you a temporary license to be qualified to do the job, so be a teacher.
So So
You have to be apologetic for it, okay?
if I were a teacher, I would make sure the learning in my classroom was more hands-on. For example, if I was a biology teacher, I'd take my students outside and make them look around the school campus. If I were a social teacher and I was taking a lesson on the Cold War, I'd divide the class into two sides and make them debate on it from the point of view of, say, USA and Russia. And I think that that kind of teaching would make students more invested in it, because it doesn't become rote learning and it doesn't become something that they have to do as a tedious task, but more something enjoyable. And when students enjoy classes, which is the reason most students enjoy, say, English more than maths, because English is so much easier and they don't find it so hard, and it's not something that troubles them per se. So if all subjects were like that, it would be so much easier for students to engage in class, to actually be invested in a subject, and to actually care about the subject enough to put their time and effort into it. And for that reason, I'd make learning more hands-on in my classroom if I were a teacher.
Okay, from the four responses, there is one common thread that links all the four responses, that it was touching the academic spheres of classroom. Now, assuming that that's going to happen in perfect mode, can any one of you, not all the four, but any one of you, tell me what would be the natural byproduct of education, the way in which Mr. Gurmurthy said this morning, you were not there, that it's not just a class for you to pass a course. He said that after that, Acharya Kriplani used to take his students under a tree and tell the students what happened inside the class is for you to pass the subject. But the real teaching is going to happen under this tree, right? But how will you bring that under the tree experience inside the classroom so that that learning is a natural byproduct of the changes that you want to make? Any one of you? Or you can think and then answer it whenever you feel you're comfortable, so that I can move to the second question, right? Okay. Now here I want you to suffer from this split personality syndrome. Okay? You have to be a teacher and a student, right? Now the reason I want you to do that is you are students now. So, but now you would have realized that given a second chance, I would have behaved a different way in the classroom, leaving a positive impact, right? Now again, now you're a teacher. Ask the question yourself, meaning to the student in you, how would, as a teacher, you would have wanted yourself to again